Good day. Welcome to the MENA Information Security Conference. It's always good to be part of this event, even virtually, and always glad to contribute to this very important annual event. My name is Jamil Aqel. I am the FireEye Sales Engineering Director for the area of Middle East and Africa. Today, we're here to talk about some of the threats that are relevant and that are recent threats that matter for the region and for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in particular. We all know that cyberspace has become a full-blown war zone as different organizations and governments across the globe clash for digital supremacy in this new and mostly invisible theater of cyberspace. We see that cyber attacks that were once limited to certain opportunistic criminals are becoming a widespread phenomena. We want to talk a little bit to start with about the current threat landscape and how relevant it is to us. We have seen some patterns in the past where certain state-sponsored attackers, financially motivated attackers, people behind information, other groups that have a cause behind doing activism. We have seen these threat groups or these activity categories between states and companies, and we have as well seen destructive, even to go extreme, destructive military cyber attacks happening in some countries all around the world. And I would like to think that a cyber attack is best understood not as an end or an action of itself, but as a potentially powerful means to a wide variety of political, military, and economic goals. The relationship between the means chosen and their goals may look rational and reasonable, justifiable to some actors, but it doesn't necessarily, the same doesn't necessarily apply to us. We are trying to follow that logic that these actors have to try to better understand their operations, so we can do one of many things: either eliminate those bad actors, from their roots, try to defend ourselves by depriving them from the means to be used to attack us, or to try to proactively predict how, where, when will they hit next. Because believe me and be assured that these people, a lot of them, they have criminal minds, and as long as they are out there, they will just be always looking for an opportunity to hit us back. What is making this a little bit more complex, more confusing, is that these motives with the actors and the activities are getting mixed up. So we have seen that the attackers continue to grow their capabilities and their knowledge, and continue to invest in tools where we can see that they are using varying a wide range of operating systems, device types, as well. They are just like we are trying to reap the benefits of the cloud. They are doing the same. They are using cloud architectures as well for their attacks. They keep innovating. They keep using more advanced weapons and so on. So out of all the malware that we have seen as FireEye this year, um, only 41% were previously unknown to us. So um, these guys are not only relying on updated malware, they are innovating, they are creating new malware, new tools, new techniques to attack us. And we also have seen that some of the attack groups, for example, APT41, doing dual espionage and cybercrime operations. These attack groups need to fund, they need money, they need to fund their activities. So we have seen some of them, for example, use the ransomware as a secondary source of income, as a side business, if you'd like to say, to help them fund their operations and their activities. Zooming a little bit into Saudi Arabia, FireEye Mandiant has released a country cyber threat score report in late August, that is almost a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago, where we were looking at certain activities that were observed. And according to that, we did a classification that we called, and we gave a cyber threat score for countries from 14 countries from 9 different regions. And from in the period from Q1 2019 to Q1 to 2020, Saudi Arabia faced the third highest levels of cyber threats in 2020. Well, the thing that we need to be aware of is that the elements that contributed to the 2020 score will persist in 2021. So we don't see any signs of this activity declining for the time being. So this is something for us to take note of and to be careful about. Now, to give some more insight, some more visibility into the targeted sector, into the targeted sectors, the malware being used, the threat actors themselves. Let's also zoom in a little bit more into Saudi Arabia. In the first quarter of the year, you can see to your left the top targeted industries. Of course, government came by far number one, followed by financial services, energy and utility came as number two, telcos, chemical and material, oil and gas, education, healthcare, legal and professional services, even media and entertainment. We all remember that in Q1, it was the end of the festival season in Saudi, Riyadh season and similar activities all across the kingdom. That was a very visible high value target for attackers. So it was also something that was targeted. Moving forward in Q2, government stays on top, financial services, telcos, and so on. The change we saw is with retail coming up. We were all in the period that we were sitting at home in the lockdown and COVID, we all were relying heavily on online retail services, and we can see that that became also a high value target for attackers. And you can see, for example, that education and healthcare are still there. So although our children had to, attend school from home, and although the healthcare sector was, pushing its limits across all over the world for services, but those attackers unfortunately have no conscience and do not have, any kind of compassion, and hence we're even targeting those humanly critical sectors for their own purposes. The top malicious, top malware families that we've seen were, for example, the likes of Sadwich, Tondef, and others. Those were the most commonly observed malware families used as weapons by attack groups targeting these sectors in Saudi. What about the actors? We have seen three main APT groups operating in the country. The first one was APT 33, which was engaged in several cyber operations with the intent of stealing intellectual property. They have shown specific interest in organizations associated with aerospace, aviation, defense related sectors, along with petrochemical, oil and gas production sector. Now, based on the available data, we were able to tell that APT-33 was associated with the Iranian government. We have seen many points to support that, some of which, some of the things that I can disclose to you, that we have even seen that their working hours, their time zones, their working week, Saturday through Wednesday, closely coincides with those in that country. We assess that APT-33 were looking to gain insights into regional military aviation capabilities that they may try to replicate or copy, and of course it will significantly assist in strategic decision making choices for that country. We expect that the APT-33 activity will continue to cover a broad scope of targeted entities. They may be spreading into other regions and into other sectors, depending on the continuously changing political landscape around us. To give some examples, APT-33 have been tracked targeting a multinational consortium working into the aerospace sector in Saudi Arabia. And in the same period, in the last 3 years, they were also seen targeting a consortium that is working in the oil refining and petrochemical business in Saudi, using a malicious file that was attempting to trick the employees of that entity, the victims, about some job vacancies for another large petrochemical company here in the country. Another APT group that was observed was APT-34, which engages in cyber operations primarily targeting financial, energy, and government entities. To date, this group was observed working into at least 7 countries, including Saudi. Based on the currently available data, we can assess with moderate confidence that APT-34 works on behalf of the Iranian government as well. The information they gathered was mainly to help in strategic decision processes, along with forward planning as we anticipate. This group primarily relies on spear phishing to gain access to targeted organizations. They leverage established relationships between targets and some of their third parties, their trusted external sources, primarily by compromising Outlook Web Access, OWA. Now, additionally, APT-34 has targeted misconfigurations in servers and have conducted brute force attacks against several organizations' OWA servers, Outlook Web Access. Once an APT-34 has access to a trusted organization's OWA resources, they use lateral movement techniques where they use the organization's email accounts to launch even other spear phishing attacks against their primary target. On multiple occasions, APT-34 leveraged even open source information, including companies' press releases, their employees' social media profiles, to try to trick users to click on malicious links or to open malicious documents. They were seen active on LinkedIn, and in multiple occasions have been using or targeting certain Dropbox accounts for the users of those organizations. The third group that was observed was APT39, which, just by the way, these three groups were observed throughout the first 6 months of the year, and they were amongst the top in the 6 months of the year so far for 2020. APT39 has been tracked since November 2014. The group primarily leverages certain backdoors like Seaweed, Cash Money, and POBAT. Their targeting scope is, as you can see, is global, but their activities are concentrated mainly in the Middle East. Their primary targets are the telco sector, with additional targeting of the travel industry, some IT firms supporting it, and some high-tech industry companies. We can see that their key mission is to track or monitor certain targets of interest, collecting personal information, including travel itineraries for certain key people, gathering customer data, and gathering some customer data from the telco firms. We also do believe that this cyber espionage group is operating from Iran. We have seen in some post-compromise assessment activities at a telco organization that group, APT39, was in fact searching for specific user data, SMS data, and information related to an oil and gas industry company. They were trying to view certain database records, certain visa and passport information, employee information, and in some case, were looking for data related to a foreign organization and an airliner company. Please note that the information we have given so far is for the first 6 months of the year. Stay tuned or follow us to get information about the second half of the year as we continuously keep releasing them. Now, having a higher level outlook from an EMEA perspective, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, where Saudi Arabia is part of that region, we have seen an improvement by reducing the number of days required for dwell time, and dwell time is the time that an organization takes to find and contain attackers. We have two main kinds of dwell time: internal, the kind where we have internal detection, where an organization independently discovers that it has been compromised, and there are external notifications or detections where an outside entity, like a cybersecurity vendor or a law enforcement agency, informs an organization that it has been compromised. And you can see the some median numbers of both. Now, the good thing is that although the number has declined, but this doesn't necessarily mean that the decline was all good. It is mostly good because of the having better controls, better awareness, better security defenses, and so on. But in certain cases where we have been seeing certain disruptive attacks, it did not take too much time for attacks to happen, like, for example, the cases of ransomware and cryptocurrency miners and so on. These attacks are quick in nature, so by its nature, it does not take too much time for for an attack to go on the surface and to be known. But in fairness, the most or significant part of the improvement in dwell time is attributed to the enhanced performance of our security teams and security measures and controls. Now, we have spoken about the threat landscape and the threat actors, or tools, and so on. Let us now conclude by talking about how to improve our security status. And that comes in many ways, mostly by first understanding our location. And by location, we don't mean only the geographical location, but my footprint. Where am I in this industry? My contribution to this industry. Understanding our business links to the strategic aims of these active groups. Do I have something that they want to steal? And most of us do. And what it is that they want to steal, or do I have something that could be a key target for attack? Understanding our connections and our, dependencies with third parties, with our supply chains, we're applying the concept of downstream liability to protect ourselves and protect them. We are only as strong as our weakest link. Understanding the additional exposures we have. For example, the legacy systems we have, especially, for example, with some OT systems or OT devices for some of our large infrastructure companies and so on. Not relying on assumptions. Security should not be based on assumptions. And that is where validation to ensure that our defenses are operating as they should be, our defenses are working in the right way at the right time to ensure that we are protected and that we don't just have, a false sense of security around us with the defenses we have. With that, we should be able to align our cyber risk to the business impact that we have. I know if a certain system is attacked, what is the business impact? What are the dependencies that I have across my systems? I should be able to know where my critical data is and what are the critical assets or systems that I have. Ensure that I know their value, I know their different attributes, I know, again, the dependencies on each other, and so on, so I don't get surprises in case of an attack, God forbid. Understanding and building a threat picture where I understand how exactly my organization fits and plays in the region, in the industry, and as a company with my customers and with the people I interact with is a key thing for me to understand and evaluate my business risk. The never-ending story of vulnerabilities, understanding what vulnerabilities I have, prioritizing which ones that I need to tackle and fix, understanding which ones are having exploits and which ones don't, and the normal never-ending story of patching of vulnerabilities. Last but not least, planning for appropriate security response. They say that soldiers fight in wars the way they train in peace. So we don't want to, we need to know who to call, what to do in case we have, God forbid, a security breach or an incident, and not wait for it to happen, to take action, and to learn through our mistakes, which is something that unfortunately we happen to see a lot. With that, I thank you very much for your attendance. I hope that the session was insightful and that you found it useful. Thank you all for listening. We look forward to seeing all of you soon in the future, and to have this event, inshallah, next year in person. Have a great day.